You've felt it, haven't you, that quiet, searing pain, the kind that doesn't scream but burns in silence. Most will never understand it, but you carry it, and yet you walk, unbroken, the strongest souls. Do not beg for sympathy. They do not crumble for an audience. They endure fire and emerge not with scars, but with armor. Look around you. The world worships noise, but strength, real strength, is in the silence between the screams. It's in the man who loses everything and still plants a tree for a future he may never see. The strongest souls are not defined by their brightness alone, but by the shadows they've endured. Imagine a film where every frame tells a story, darkness pressing in, but a single streak of light cutting through. This is not just cinematography, it's philosophy. The most compelling visuals don't just show struggle, they embody it. Firelight flickering across a face not in agony, but in resolve. A silhouette standing at the edge of a storm, not fleeing, but studying it. This is how you make pain visible without words. The audience should feel the heat, the weight, the silent battle in every shot. Close-ups of hands, calloused, trembling, but still gripping. Wide shots of empty spaces with a single figure, emphasizing isolation. The color palette matters. Burnt oranges, deep blacks, muted grays. Nothing pristine, everything textured, weathered, real. The strongest souls don't exist in perfect lighting. They emerge from the contrast. A sudden flare of light in a dark room. A face half, hidden in shadow, half revealed in defiance. This visual tension mirrors life, the push and pull between suffering and strength. Consider the way fire behaves. It doesn't announce its arrival with a scream. It hisses, it licks, it consumes quietly. Your visuals should do the same. No dramatic explosions. Just the slow, inevitable burn of endurance. Let the viewer lean in. Let them search for the light in your darkness. The most powerful stories are not told through dialogue, but through imagery that lingers. A single ember floating in the wind, a footprint left in ash. These are the moments that stick, the ones that whisper rather than shout. The audience should feel like they're walking through the fire with you, not just watching from a safe distance. Silence is your ally, a held breath, a paused frame, the moment before the storm breaks. These pauses are where the audience fills in the blanks with their own struggles. The strongest souls don't need to narrate their pain. It's written in the weariness around their eyes, the set of their shoulders, the way they move through the world like a storm contained. This is not about beauty. It's about truth, raw, unpolished, unfiltered. The camera doesn't flinch. It stares unblinking at the cracks and the scars. The light doesn't soften. It exposes. The shadows don't hide. They reveal. The strongest visuals are the ones that don't try to impress, but to imprint. They leave a mark, a smoldering wreckage, a single figure walking away, unhurried, untouched by the chaos behind them. The audience should feel like they've witnessed something private, something sacred. This is the language of resilience, not grand gestures, but quiet ones, not a roar, but a whisper that carries further than a scream ever could. The fire doesn't consume these souls, it forges them. And the camera captures it all, frame by frame, until the audience understands. This is not a story of survival. It's a story of transformation. The strongest souls understand the weight of silence. They know that the space between words is where the real meaning lives. A pause is not emptiness, it's anticipation. It's the breath before the plunge, the heartbeat before the decision. In storytelling, pacing is everything. Rush, and you lose the gravity. Drag, and you lose the tension. This is not about speed, it's about rhythm, the slow, deliberate cadence of a man who has nothing left to prove, the measured steps of someone walking through fire, not running. The audience should feel every second of it, the hesitation, the resolve, the quiet certainty. The most powerful moments are the ones left hanging, a sentence cut short, a glance held a beat too long. The audience should lean forward, straining to hear what comes next. But what comes next is silence. And in that silence, they hear themselves. The strongest souls don't fill the air with noise. They let the silence speak for them. A raised eyebrow, a clenched jaw, a slow nod. These are the punctuation marks of a story well told. The audience should feel like they're deciphering a code, piecing together the meaning from what's left unsaid. This is the art of restraint. Not every emotion needs to be named. Not every pain needs to be explained. The audience is smarter than we give them credit for. They'll connect the dots, they'll fill in the gaps, and in doing so, they'll make the story their own. The pause is where the magic happens. It's where the audience breathes. It's where they reflect. It's where they realize, without being told, what's at stake. The strongest souls don't need to shout to be heard. They let the silence do the work for them. This is not about withholding. It's about trust. Trusting the audience to understand. Trusting the story to resonate. Trusting the power of a well-placed silence to say more than words ever could. The rhythm of resilience is slow, steady, unshakable. It doesn't rush. It doesn't falter. It moves like a river, inevitable, unstoppable, carving its path through stone. The audience should feel that rhythm in their bones. This is the pacing of endurance. Not the frantic energy of survival, but the calm certainty of someone who knows they'll outlast the fire. The audience should feel that certainty too, not because it's promised to them, but because it's demonstrated frame by frame, pause by pause. The strongest souls don't need to explain themselves. Their silence is their testimony, and in that silence, the audience finds their own strength. Music is not just sound. It is the unseen current that pulls the soul into deeper waters. The strongest stories are not heard with the ears alone, but felt in the hollow of the chest, in the quiet tremor of the spine. A single note, held just a breath too long, can convey more than pages of dialogue. It is the language of the unspeakable, the texture of the intangible. The score must be sparse, deliberate, like footsteps in an empty hallway. A lone piano, its keys worn with age, playing a melody that feels both familiar and haunting. The strings should not soar, they should ache, they should bend under the weight of something too heavy to name. The audience should not notice the music at first. It should seep into them unnoticed until they realize they are breathing in time with its rhythm. Silence is part of the composition. The absence of sound is its own kind of music. The pause between notes is where the heart fills in the blanks. The strongest souls understand this. They know that sometimes the most powerful statement is the one not made. The music should mirror this philosophy. It should not guide the audience, but follow them, like a shadow trailing a figure through fire. The instrumentation must be organic, imperfect. A cello with a slight rasp in its lower register. A piano slightly out of tune, its hammers softened with age. These imperfections are not flaws. They are proof of life. The audience should feel the humanity in every note, the way they feel it in the cracks of a voice that refuses to break. The tempo is not a metronome, it is a pulse. It quickens when the soul falters, slows when the resolve hardens. The audience should not be aware of this manipulation. They should only feel their own heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of endurance. The music does not tell them how to feel, it reminds them of what they already know. The strongest themes are not melodies, but motifs, a recurring phrase, twisted just slightly each time it appears. A shadow of itself in the beginning, a full spectre by the end. The audience should recognize it without knowing why. It should live in their subconscious, echoing long after the screen fades to black. Volume is its own language. A whisper can drown out a scream if placed at the right moment. The music should not swell to announce importance. It should retreat, pulling the audience forward in their seats, straining to hear what is barely there. The strongest souls do not raise their voices, they lower them, and the world leans in to listen. The score must have space to breathe. It is not a wall of sound, but a series of carefully placed pillars, holding up the silence between them. The audience should feel the emptiness as much as the sound. They should feel the absence as acutely as the presence. This is how music becomes memory. The end of the piece should not feel like an ending. It should feel like a continuation, a note held infinitely just beyond the range of hearing. The audience should leave not with a resolution, but with a resonance, a vibration that lingers in the bones, in the back of the throat, in the quiet moments when they are alone with their own thoughts. The strongest music does not accompany the story. It becomes the story. It is the hum of the soul walking through fire, the sound of embers cooling, the quiet after the storm. The audience will forget the notes, but they will remember how it made them feel. And that is the point. The screen is not a barrier. It is a bridge. When done right, the audience does not feel like they are watching a story. They feel like they are being spoken to, directly, intimately, as if the words are being formed in the air between them. The strongest souls do not lecture, they confide. They pull the viewer into the circle of their understanding, making them complicit in the truth being shared. The gaze must be unwavering, but not aggressive. It should feel like the speaker is looking just past the camera at something only they can see and inviting the audience to see it too. The eyes are the anchor. They hold the audience in place, even as the words pull them into deeper waters. The audience should feel pinned by that gaze, unable to look away, even if they wanted to. The tone is not performative. It is conversational, but weighted. Each word is a stone dropped into still water, the ripples expanding long after the sound has faded. The audience should feel like they are being let in on a secret, one that has been kept for generations, passed down only to those who are ready to hear it. The strongest souls do not shout their wisdom. They murmur it, knowing the right ears will hear. Pauses are not empty space. They are invitations. The audience should feel compelled to fill them with their own thoughts, their own experiences. The speaker does not need to explain everything. The gaps are where the audience plants their own truths, making the message personal, intimate, undeniable. The voice should not be flawless. It should have texture, cracks, a slight rasp that suggests it has been through fire and come out the other side. The audience should feel the years in every syllable, the weight of experience in every inflection. Perfection is distancing. Imperfection is magnetic. The strongest direct address does not feel like a monologue. It feels like a dialogue where only one person is speaking. The audience should nod along, answering questions that were never asked aloud, their internal voice harmonizing with the one coming through the screen. This is not manipulation, it is collaboration. The words must be simple, but the meanings layered. The audience should feel like they are uncovering something new with each viewing, peeling back another level of understanding. The strongest truths are not complex, they are deceptively straightforward, revealing their depth only upon reflection. The delivery should be slow, but never sluggish. Each word is given its due, its moment in the air before the next follows. The audience should have time to taste the words, to feel their shape, to carry them like stones in their pockets long after the video ends. The illusion of eye contact is not about trickery, it is about connection. The audience should forget, if only for a moment, that they are watching a recording. They should feel seen, understood, acknowledged in their own silent struggles. The strongest souls do not offer solutions. They offer recognition. This is not storytelling, it is soul speaking. The audience will not remember the words as much as they will remember the feeling of being spoken to, directly, honestly, without pretense or pageantry. And that is how the message sticks, not because it was heard, but because it was felt. Fire is not just destruction, it is revelation. It strips away the unnecessary, leaving only what is essential, what is true. The strongest souls understand this. They do not fear the flames. They walk through them, letting the fire burn away everything they do not need until only their core remains. The audience should see this transformation not as loss, but as distillation. The walk through fire is not a metaphor. It is a process. Step by step, frame by frame, the audience should see the heat distorting the air, the ground glowing beneath the feet, the light casting long shadows that twist and writhe. But the figure does not run, they do not flinch, their pace is steady, their path unwavering. The fire does not change their direction, it confirms it. The strongest symbols are not obscure, they are universal. A single tree growing from cracked earth, a sword being hammered on an anvil, a phoenix rising, not in a burst of glory, but in a slow, deliberate unfurling of wings still smoking from the ashes. The audience should recognize these images instantly, not with their minds, but with their guts. The fire does not consume equally. It licks at some, devours others, and passes over a select few as if they are made of something it cannot touch. The audience should see themselves in this uneven burn. They should wonder which category they fall into, and more importantly, which they choose to be. The aftermath is not ruin, it is rebirth. The camera should linger on the embers, on the way they glow like fallen stars, on the way the wind carries them upward in spirals that could be mistaken for dancing. The audience should understand that this is not an ending. It is the beginning of something they cannot yet name. The strongest souls do not emerge unscathed, they emerge altered. The camera should show the scars not as flaws, but as proof of passage. The audience should trace their own scars in sympathy, remembering their own fires, their own walks through heat and light and pain. The fire is not the enemy, it is the crucible. The audience should realize slowly that the figure walking through it is not a victim. They are a volunteer. They have chosen this path, knowing what it costs, knowing what it will reveal. The strongest souls do not avoid the fire. They step into it with their eyes open. The symbolism is not subtle. It does not need to be. The audience should feel it in their marrow, in the pit of their stomach, in the sudden tightness of their throat. They should recognize the truth of it before their minds have time to articulate why. The fire does not end when the screen goes dark. It continues in the audience, in the way they sit a little straighter, breathe a little deeper, look at their own challenges with new eyes. The strongest stories do not stay on the screen. They migrate, they take root, they burn quietly in the chest long after the credits roll. This is not entertainment, it is alchemy. The audience does not leave as they came in. They leave transformed, carrying embers they will either nurture or extinguish. The choice, as always, is theirs, but the fire has been lit, and that is enough. The strongest souls do not announce their battles. They endure them in silence, letting their resilience speak louder than any cry for attention. Fire does not break them, it reveals them. Every frame, every note, every word in this journey was crafted to mirror a truth we all know but rarely voice. Pain is not weakness. It is the forge where strength is tempered. The visuals were not just images, they were reflections. The fire, the shadows, the solitary figures walking forward. They were you. They were all of us in the moments no one sees. The music was not background noise. It was the echo of your own heartbeat when you face what feels insurmountable. It was the sound of your quiet defiance. The pacing was deliberate because endurance is never rushed. The pauses were not empty. They were spaces for you to insert your own story, your own unspoken trials. The direct address was not a performance. It was a confrontation, an unflinching gaze into the mirror of your own resilience. It asked you, without words, do you recognize yourself here? The symbolism was not subtle, because truth does not hide. The fire, the scars, the embers, they are universal. They are the language of those who have burned but refuse to be reduced to ash. This was never just a story. It was an offering, a reminder that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the dignity with which you carry it. The strongest souls do not seek applause for their endurance. They do not demand recognition for their scars. They simply move forward one step at a time through the heat and the darkness. You have known fire. You have felt its bite, its weight, its relentless demand to either consume you or clarify you, and yet, here you are, still standing, still walking. The world may never see the battles you fight in silence. It may never know the weight of what you carry, but that does not make your strength any less real. Remember this: fire is not eternal. It burns, it fades, and what remains is what you chose to protect, the core of you that no flame can touch. The strongest souls are not those who avoid the fire, but those who walk through it, not as victims, but as architects of their own survival. So take this with you. The next time you feel the heat, remember, you are not burning. You are being forged. Walk on, silent soul. The fire was never your end. It was always your beginning.